I'm giving somebody the blues today.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I want to talk to you guys about two problems that's currently going on with Tekken. One of those problems is people who are sick of the maintenance period that happens when the developers release a character. I know for some people it's no big deal, practice mode, play the next day, whatever. But for some people, the wait is agonizing and they can't stand it. The second thing that's happening is Kunimitsu. A lot of people purchased the character, some purchased early access, and they weren't able to get their hands on the character for whatever reason. You have a content creator, Blasted Salami, who was having this problem where the character was locked even though they purchased it. A community thread was made on Steam highlighting this problem where it has 30 comments and a lot of people talking about Kunimitsu being locked. This is a problem that Bandai Namco should address. People are calling them out for not delivering on what the players have paid for, but then also a couple of days later, still no acknowledgement. I know in the past with Heihachi, when there was an issue where the players weren't being fairly treated in terms of what they pay for, the developers would give Tekken coins as compensation, but I'll save that discussion for another time. What I wanted to do was ask Dell, the developer, why does these things happen? And is there something that we can do to fix it? And his response is really well. Like I said before, he has his own YouTube channel. You guys go and follow him. I'll leave the link in the description. But here's his explanation for why these two problems persist in Tekken. Thank you and enjoy.
What's happening when the game goes down for maintenance is different on every game I've worked for. When I worked on Halo Wars, it was a different thing that was happening. When I worked on Apex, it was a different thing. But most of it is related. So I'll break it down by how Tekken, I expect, does it. So the first thing you do is developers have spent days or weeks preparing the update beforehand. So that's a bunch of new code, content, characters, and a bunch of assets that are developed, and then they test them on separate isolated server internally, and then the QA team would go in and test all of the servers to be like, oh, did it work? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, today is the day we're going to do the real thing. First thing you do is you just block player access, and only developer approved accounts can enter. You now need to update tons and tons of data, security patches, database updates, lots of different databases, matchmaking improvements, new actual assets. You have to do them in pockets because the larger the amount of update, the more room there is for corruption. So you do it in packets, and also you don't want to upload everything, find out there's a corruption, and then you can't figure out where it comes from. Like player data first, we do our checks, cool, looks great. We do the rank updates, cool, looks great, check, move on. Leaderboard is a massive one. Like imagine if they uploaded the new maintenance patch and then the leaderboard just got wiped out for corruption, and like everyone in fact, forget that doesn't even matter. Maybe that happens, okay, you'll survive. What if it's all your DLC paid for content and the server, for whatever reason, the database gets a bit confused and you just lose all your purchases? That would be a nightmare to try and retrieve that and then double check and go back for like hundreds of thousands of accounts that you need to go back and be like, oh, what happened? So you do it in step by step and then you do your checks. So that's explaining what happens software side. There's another side of things where you now also need to propagate those server updates in different physical locations, which means that it's not just the Bandai Namco servers. They need to cross-platform verify. So you need to get the Tekken data across the PlayStation network, the Xbox network, and I guess Steam. And then you need to make sure everything that we just talked about synchronizes across all those platforms and across the world. Okay. We could add another question here where you could ask, is it just uploading and downloading data that happens with maintenance? Is there something else going on in the office that we might not know about? So if you have these servers running, playing this game, people are playing Tekken all the time, constantly. The data is getting updated constantly, and it's saving everything. Every replay, every rank change, every time someone purchases something, and those are on a physical server somewhere or a few places. And after the end of a season, those hard drives are mash up. They have been completely worn down. So sometimes what's happening at the beginning of the maintenance is everyone gets locked. No one can play Tekken, and they go to the server room and physically change the hard drives. Take out the tired ultra terabyte hard drive in each different rack and replace them with a fresh one to reduce the risk of corruption. It's a very, very expensive process, but it's what stops everything going horribly wrong. Next question is, why did it take so long to do a Tekken maintenance? Most of that 6 hours is just contingency time. You can do all this stuff within the first 2 hours, and then spend an hour doing your like server checks and tests and quite quickly find out if things are going right or wrong. But a lot of the time is actually just in case time. Just in case we just need extra time just to do our final test. Let's do another test. Let's do another test. Great, brilliant. And then there's also just time to be like, well, everything is fine. We can just hang out for a while. But we said 6 hours, so let's just stick to the 6 hours, even though we needed 3. We didn't know everything was going to go this smooth. But the more important reason is the propagation time, which you sometimes cannot see. And anyone who's ever sent an email to someone else standing next to them and they're like, have you got the email yet? Have you got the email yet? Knows what propagation time is. You sent it, it went to the server. You can see on your PC or your phone or whatever, email has been sent. Brilliant. And now you're waiting for it to come on the other side. And that's the server having to propagate that information. So you send the information, it goes to the server. Cool, sent. That server tells another server, okay, cool, this is happening. Send it to this person. And that's somewhat still happening by the time the 6 hours is up. There are going to be some places where Bandai Namco can see it's been propagated out to all of the servers, PlayStation, Steam, etc. Then they need to internally check that it's propagated out to their internal servers, to every single person, every single account. And that can just take time to check. It could just take a long time. There's a lot of player accounts. You just basically are just burning time making sure that it's done the job. Okay, so third question is, you're saying some players are finding that even after the maintenance update, they still couldn't use Kunimitsu, even though they paid for it. Why is it that they paid for it and it's still showing that it's locked? This is actually a good example of why I mentioned maintenance windows are so long. So, okay, cool. I've updated the server. Everyone has the same version of Tekken. Everyone has Kunimitsu data on their game. Great. But now the authentication system needs to recognize ownership for every single individual and then verify it. Bandai Namco might not be able to see that data. They might actually only defer that data to PlayStation to be like, we don't know who has paid on the PlayStation network for Kunimitsu. Only PlayStation knows that, and we have to trust that they're going to handle that. But that takes a long time to verify that system, and if it hasn't fully propagated, and it might come in a certain order. It might be everyone who bought the season 3 pass, they get first order of the system checking. Anyone who purchased Kunimitsu just before the maintenance went up, they might be at the back of the line now. So in other words, like the 6 hour downtime that we talked about is to try and reduce this risk of access issues. But the fact that some players still can't access the character shows how complicated the rollout is. And that just verifying systems, once you're dealing with things where money is being paid for, you have to do it properly. And if you're in some area that has a really crappy server node and you're like, oh, I'm in Las Vegas or whatever, you might just have a server node that's just low on the hierarchy of importance. You just have to wait until PlayStation double checks. It's nothing Bandai can do. And so that's what happens when you see the update is downloaded, but the character is still locked. But what are they going to do? They're going to basically say no one can play Tekken for the whole day because, you know, 0.01% of people, they don't know if they've got it or not. The truth is they just go, nah, actually, no, this stuff will probably propagate in 4 hours. Let's just make it 6 hours so that it covers most people. There'll be a few people who have to wait because they paid for Kunimitsu a bit late, but we'll just have to just accept that.